Can you believe it? A decorated Army colonel, a fallen soldier's remains, and a flight he was denied. What happened next didn't just ripple through the terminal, it shook the entire country to its core. Picture this. The airport was buzzing, absolutely packed with life. Families hauled rolling suitcases like they were on a mission. Business travelers stared into their phones as if the world depended on it. And kids, oh, those kids, darted ahead of their exhausted parents, weaving through the chaos like it was a playground. It was the usual madness, right? But then, in walked Colonel David Carter, his polished dress shoes clicking sharply against the tile floor, each step echoing with purpose. He'd done this dance too many times, airports, flights, missions, but today was different. The weight pressing down on his chest wasn't just from the gleaming ribbons and medals pinned to his uniform. It was heavier, deeper, soul-crushing. Out on the tarmac waited a casket, draped in the stars and stripes of the American flag, holding Private First Class Jason Reynolds, 21 years old, gone way too soon. Can you imagine that kind of burden? Colonel Carter adjusted his hat, his fingers steady but his heart pounding. He took a deep breath, steady, soldier, steady. He had a job to do, a sacred duty that went far beyond rank or recognition. This wasn't about him, not even close. It was about the promise etched into the soul of every soldier who never made it home. No one gets left behind. No one. So he marched up to the airline counter, shoulders squared, and set down his military orders and ID with a quiet thud. The woman behind the desk? She barely flicked her eyes up at first, too busy pecking away at her keyboard, her face scrunched in a frown. Then she looked up. Oh, that pause. It lasted just a split second too long, didn't it? Sir, can I see that again? She asked, her voice tight, almost squeaky. Carter slid the papers back over, watching her like a hawk. What was that flicker in her eyes? Hesitation? Fear? She shot a quick, nervous glance at her coworker, her body shifting like she just stepped into quicksand. She turned away, whispering something hushed and urgent to another agent. He peeked over, stone-faced, unreadable. The air grew thick, tense, heavy with something Carter knew all too well from battlefields and back rooms, but could never quite get used to. What was going on here? When she came back, her smile was stiff, fake as a $3 bill. I'm sorry, sir, but there seems to be an issue with your ticket. We can't allow you to board at this time, she said, her words clipped. Carter exhaled, slow and deliberate, like he was letting the frustration bleed out. He'd faced combat zones, navigated foreign diplomacy, wrestled with political entanglements. But this was a whole new beast. I'm escorting the remains of a fallen soldier, he said, his voice calm but firm, tapping the paperwork with a finger that didn't waver. Everything is in order. She wouldn't even meet his eyes, coward. I understand, sir, but there's a security protocol in place, and we can't override it, she mumbled. Carter's brow furrowed. Security protocol? He pressed, steady as a rock. Yes, sir, she replied, forcing another weak, pathetic smile. It's just policy. Policy? Policy? What policy? He shot back, his tone sharp now. He didn't budge, didn't flinch. Behind him, the line stretched longer, people shifting, murmuring could they feel it too. Their eyes bored into him, but instead of shrinking away, he squared his shoulders and stood tall. No way was he leaving without answers. But the airline staff? They weren't backing down either. Oh, this was getting good. The air around that counter turned heavy, like a storm was brewing right there in the terminal. Conversations behind him, hushed people were noticing. A man in a crisp military uniform being denied his flight? That's not something you see every day, is it? Colonel Carter stayed cool as ice, his voice steady as ever. Ma'am, I need to understand exactly what the issue is. This is a military assignment, not some weekend getaway. My documentation is valid, check it. The agent hesitated again, her eyes darting toward the cluster of airline staff whispering in the back like conspirators. Finally, a supervisor stepped up, a guy in his mid-50s with a tired, droopy face. He fiddled with his name tag, folded his arms, and gave Carter a once-over. "Sir, one apologize for the inconvenience," he began, his voice dripping with that fake, professional polish people use when they want you to shut up and go away. But we have certain policies in place, and unfortunately, we can't override them at this time. Policies again? Really? Carter sucked in a slow breath through his nose, fighting the urge to roll his eyes. He'd seen this game before, just not in an airport. "I've flown with military escorts before," he said, his frustration buried deep under years of iron discipline. "I know the procedure, and I know there's no policy stopping me from boarding. So let's cut the nonsense. What's the real reason I'm being denied?" The supervisor cleared his throat, shifting on his feet like a kid caught in a lie. "It's just an extra security measure." "Nothing personal, sir." "Nothing personal?" Oh, that was rich. Carter's jaw tightened, but he didn't let the anger erupt, not yet. He'd been in too many rooms where people hid behind vague excuses like this. Were they testing him? Waiting for him to snap so they could call security and wash their hands of it? Fat chance! He wasn't giving them the satisfaction, no way. Now the people in line were hooked. A woman in a red blazer leaned over, whispering to her husband. What was she saying? A young guy clutching his boarding pass frowned, eyeing the airline folks like he was piecing together a puzzle. Then bam, a voice sliced through the tension. "Sir, do you have an issue with his military clearance?" Carter tilted his head just enough to see who'd spoken. A man a few spots back, older mid-60s maybe, with a weathered face and a USMC hat pulled low over his brow. "A Marine, a veteran." The supervisor squirmed. "No, sir, this isn't about clearance. We just have to follow standard protocol," he stammered. The Marine huffed, a sharp, fed-up sound. "Yeah, I've been through security 1,000 times, and I've never seen protocol stop a soldier from escorting one of our own home. So what is it, huh?" Murmurs rippled through the line. People were waking up. Phones came out, cameras rolling. The air shifted. Electric now, and the staff behind the counter? They felt it too. Oh, they felt it. The agent who'd first denied Carter snuck a glance at her supervisor, uncertainty creeping into her eyes. The supervisor sighed, rubbing his temple like he had a headache coming on. He looked at Carter, the weight of it all sinking in. "Let me check something," he muttered, then shuffled off. The agent stayed put, her gaze glued to her screen, suddenly fascinated by it. Carter didn't twitch. He stood tall, shoulders squared, staring straight ahead like a statue of resolve. He wasn't going anywhere, and neither was this story. The terminal buzz wasn't just noise anymore, it was alive. Charged! People weren't just waiting for flights, they were watching, recording witnesses to something big. The Marine wasn't alone in his irritation. A middle-aged woman in a denim jacket gripped her purse tight, shaking her head at her husband. "This isn't right," she hissed. A younger guy in a hoodie yanked out his phone, fingers flying over the screen. People were noticing, and for the airline, that spelled trouble, big trouble. Carter's face stayed stone cold, but inside, he was clocking every detail, every twitch, every whisper. The supervisor still hadn't come back. What was he doing? Scrambling for an excuse? Hoping this would blow over? Dream on! Then another voice piped up. "Excuse me, sir." Carter turned his head just a bit. A young woman no older than 25 stood a few feet off, phone in hand, her eyes wide with a mix of nerves and fire. I don't mean to intrude, but I just want to make sure I understand. They're not letting you board?" Her voice was soft but deliberate. Everyone nearby leaned in. Carter exhaled, glancing at the agent. "That's correct." She blinked. Did she hear that right? She paused, then nodded once, flipping her phone toward him. "I'm live right now," she said, her voice trembling with conviction. People need to see this. And just like that, boom, the dam broke. Another guy hoisted his phone. This is wrong, he barked, shaking his head. This man is literally escorting a fallen soldier. How dare they? A woman farther back waved her hand at the counter. Hey, excuse me. Can someone explain why he's being denied? She yelled. A few folks shifted, uneasy should they jump in. But the vibe in the room? It flipped. What started as quiet grumbles exploded into something massive, something the airline couldn't ignore. The agent behind the counter looked like she wanted to vanish. Her hands froze over the keyboard, her eyes darting to the phones pointed at her like spotlights. They were caught. Then the Marine stepped forward again. Oh, he was done messing around. I've seen a lot of things in my time, he said, his voice steady but blazing. But I never thought I'd see the day when an American soldier, especially one escorting the remains of a brother in arms, was treated like this. Are you kidding me? The terminal fell silent, eerie, haunting silence. Even the airport announcements faded into the background, drowned out by the beeps of phones recording every heartbeat of this showdown. The Marine squared his shoulders. This is a disgrace. The agent gulped, her fingers shaking as she tapped at her keyboard again. The supervisor? Still MIA. Where was he hiding? The tension was thick enough to choke on, people whispered. A baby fussed in a stroller somewhere, but all eyes were locked on this unfolding drama. Colonel Carter stood firm, a pillar of strength in the storm, while the airline floundered. What would happen next? Could they even fix this? The crowd held its breath, waiting for justice, or at least an answer. Can you hear it? The whispers rippling through the crowd, passengers, strangers, all caught up in the unfolding storm. A baby fussed in its stroller, its tiny cries piercing the air, but the mother? She didn't even try to hush it. Oh no! She was too busy staring at her phone, her face twisted in pure disgust as she scrolled through something that made her blood boil. What was she reading? Then, from somewhere deep in the line, a man's low mutter cut through the haze. It's already trending. Trending? Already? Colonel. David Carter didn't flinch, didn't even shift his stance. Why would he? He didn't need to. The world was watching now, and he could feel it. The tension in that terminal was suffocating, thick as fog rolling in off a battlefield. The supervisor? Still gone, vanished like a ghost. The airline staff stood there, frozen in awkward silence, their faces pale. Phones were everywhere recording, tweeting, streaming, capturing every heartbeat of this mess. Then boom. It hit like a spark on dry grass, spreading wild and unstoppable. The young man in the hoodie, eyes glued to his phone, let out a low, stunned whistle. Damn, this is everywhere now, he exclaimed, his voice trembling with disbelief. Carter didn't react. Oh, he was too seasoned for that. He knew better than to cheer too soon. But that agent behind the counter, she stiffened like she'd been slapped. Did she feel the walls closing in? You bet she did. The woman in the denim jacket fumbled with her phone, her hands shaky, and then gasp. Oh my God, she whispered to her husband, her voice cracking. It's already on Facebook, can you believe this? The older Marine, that grizzled vet with the USMC hat, grunted as he yanked out his own phone, his weathered fingers swiping the screen. They don't even know what kind of storm they just kicked up, he growled, a smirk tugging at his lips. A storm? Oh, they had no idea. Then, right on cue, crackle. The airport loudspeaker blared to life, cutting through the chaos. Attention passengers, due to unforeseen circumstances, Flight 237 to Phoenix will be delayed. We apologize for any inconvenience. Delayed? Seriously? A few groans rumbled through the crowd, but most people didn't even blink. Why would they? Their eyes, their hearts, their everything was locked on this uniformed soldier, Colonel Carter, being refused his flight while carrying out a duty. So sacred, it made your chest ache just thinking about it. Barely a minute later, a young woman near the windows let out a sharp gasp loud enough to turn heads. He's on Twitter, she cried, spinning her phone toward the crowd like it was a beacon. People leaned in, craning their necks. What was it? A tweet blazed across her screen in bold, furious capital letters. They just denied a black U.S. Army colonel his flight while escorting a fallen SOLDIERS remains. This is how we treat our heroes? Let them flee. Heroes? Damn right he was. The numbers beneath it, retweets, comments, likes were skyrocketing, climbing faster than anyone could count. It was catching fire wildfire. Then another tweet popped up, this one from a veteran advocacy group. And oh, it hit hard. We are aware of the disgraceful incident happening at airport name. Our soldiers deserve better. Expect action. Action? You better believe it, the crowd murmured. A low rumble of shock and outrage. Did they realize it yet? The airline had lost the reins. The narrative was gone, slipping through their fingers like sand. That agent behind the counter? She was a statue, frozen stiff, until a shaky breath escaped her lips. Did she know she was toast? She spun on her heel and bolted toward the back, disappearing behind a frosted glass door faster than you could blink. Was she coming back with an answer? Ha! No way. She was scrambling for damage control, running from the fire she'd helped start. Carter adjusted his hat, calm as ever. Did anything rattle this man? He'd been in tight spots before, not airports, not like this, but in dark corners, where powerful people suddenly realized they'd picked the wrong fight. He wasn't smiling, wasn't gloating. Why would he? This wasn't about him, not one bit. It was about Private First Class Jason Reynolds, that young man only 21, waiting out there on the tarmac to go home. And right now, that mission, still hanging in the balance, unfinished, unresolved. How could they let that stand? The crowd wasn't just watching anymore. Oh no, they were waiting, holding their breath. The terminal felt alive, buzzing, charged with expectation. Could you feel the electricity crackling? Then, finally, the supervisor slunk back in. But wait, he wasn't alone. A second man strode beside him, decked out in a sleek navy suit, his airline ID clipped neat as a pin to his pocket. His walk, brisk, controlled like a firefighter rushing to douse a blaze. He stopped, just short of the counter, his sharp eyes darting between Carter, the Marine, and the sea of phones still rolling. He cleared his throat loud, deliberate. "Colonel, I apologize for the miscommunication," he said, his voice smooth but strained. "There seems to have been an error with our system, but we're working to get you on your flight as soon as possible." Miscommunication? Oh, come on. Carter knew that word, didn't he? After years in the military, it screamed we got caught. It begged fix this before it costs us everything. He didn't answer right away. Why rush? He let the silence stretch, watching the rep squirm under the weight of it. "I see," Carter said. At last, his voice steady as steel. "An error, you said?" "Yes, sir, a regrettable mistake." The rep rushed out. "We assure you it was not intentional." "Not intentional?" A few people in the crowd scoffed loudly. The Marine shook his head, smirking. The rep tugged at his tie, sweat beading on his brow. "Nervous much? We'd like to personally escort you to the gate now, Colonel," he added. "First-class accommodations, of course." First class? As if that was the point, really? Carter's gaze slid past him, locking on the agent still lurking at the counter. Staring anywhere but at him, the same woman who'd flashed that stiff, fake smile. When she denied him, the same one who hadn't even bothered to double-check before saying no. He exhaled slow and deep. Did she think he'd forget? "I appreciate the urgency," he said, his tone even but cutting. "But I need to clarify something." The rep nodded, fast, too fast. "Of course," he chirped. Carter's voice didn't waver. "If no one recorded this, if no one spoke up, would I still be standing here?" Oh, that hit hard. A beat of silence deafening. The rep swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. "Sir, you don't need to answer," Carter cut in, sharp as a blade. He knew, didn't he? And so did everyone in that terminal. The truth hung there, heavy and undeniable. Another silence, tense, electric. Then a woman in the crowd whispered, "He's right," and it was like a match striking flint. The rep tried to smooth it over, desperation creeping in. "Sir, we sincerely apologize." "We both know this isn't about an apology," Carter fired back. "It's about accountability. Where's yours?" The crowd murmured louder, now agreement. Anger, disappointment swirling together. People weren't just mad anymore, they were heartbroken. Could you feel it? The rep knew he was losing. Oh, he knew. He straightened up, trying to look tough. "Colonel, let's get you on your flight now," he insisted. But before Carter could reply bomb, a new voice broke in. "Sir." A younger guy in an airport security uniform stepped up, holding out a phone, his face tight with urgency. "I think you should see this," he said, thrusting it at the rep. The rep frowned, grabbed the phone, and scrolled. Oh, his face went white as a sheet. The Marine crossed his arms, grinning now. "What? Something wrong?" he taunted. The rep didn't answer. Did he even need to? Carter already knew the backlash had blown up, spilling far beyond this little airport. A major news outlet had snatched the story. And the headline? Brutal and blunt, U.S. Army colonel denied flight while escorting fallen soldier. Airline scrambles for answers. Below it, a video clip right from this terminal, played on loop. The rep handed the phone back, sucked in a sharp breath, and faced Carter. "We deeply regret this situation," he said, his voice thin, cracking. "We'd like to issue a public statement clarifying. The public already knows the truth." Carter snapped, cutting him off cold. Boom, mic drop. Silence again, stunned, heavy. The rep's lips pressed tight out of moves. Carter scanned the crowd, those phones still rolling, then locked eyes with the rep. "I don't need first class. I don't need special treatment," he said, each word deliberate. "I need respect, and so does the soldier I'm escorting. Got that?" Another murmur rolled through pride, fury, unity. The rep nodded stiffly. What else could he do? "Understood, sir," he muttered. The Marine let out a small, gruff grunt approval. Carter adjusted his hat calm, collected. "Now let's finish this mission," he declared. But for the airline? Oh, the consequences were just starting to rain down hard. They'd lost it control, gone. The story was wildfire now, blazing faster than they could douse it. The terminal? It felt like a press conference, phone still up, passengers still riveted. Then, whoa, something wild happened. A man in a dark blue suit strode in, his posture screaming authority, military authority. Not airline, not security, oh no, this was big. The room shifted, people parted like the Red Sea as he marched up to Carter, ID badge flashing, hand outstretched. "Colonel," he barked, firm and fierce. "I'm Major Thomas Beckett, Department of the Army. We've been informed of the situation." Carter shook his hand, strong, unyielding. Did he need to ask how Beckett got here so fast? Nope, the military doesn't mess around when it's one of their own. Beckett wheeled on the rep, voice crisp as a whip. "We are handling this now. Colonel Carter and the remains of Private First Class Reynolds will not be flying commercial." The rep blinked, stunned. Sir, you were just about to cover your tracks." Beckett cut in, polite but deadly. He glanced at Carter. "Sir, the Pentagon has arranged a private military flight. Your transport is waiting. Waiting? The Pentagon?" A murmur buzzed through the crowd. Did you hear that? The U.S. military had stormed in. Carter exhaled, not relief. Oh no, he didn't need saving, but because this mission was back on track. He nodded, small, firm. "Understood." Beckett shot the rep one last look. "This will be addressed, not a threat. A promise." Carter turned to the Marine, eyes warm. "Appreciate you, brother," he said. The Marine tipped his head. "We look out for our own damn straight." Carter gave the room one final sweep, those brave souls who'd spoken up, who'd refused to let this die, who'd made sure this story roared. He adjusted his uniform, squared his shoulders, and strode out not to some gate, but to something bigger. But The airline? Oh, the fallout was just revving up. They thought it'd fade some apologies, a press release, maybe a CEO statement, damage control, right? Wrong. The public wasn't letting go, not a chance. News networks pounced. Veterans groups fired off statements blasting the airline. Politicians thundered for accountability. Did they think they could dodge this? Then the hammer dropped financially. By week's end, the airline's stock plummeted. Ouch. A hashtag calling for a boycott trended. Hashtag boycott the disgrace gaining steam fast. Customers swarmed their social media, furious demands for answers. Then the knockout punch. A lawsuit. A coalition of military advocacy groups slammed them with a formal complaint. Discrimination. Failure to honor service member protections. Under that pressure, the CEO stepped up, meek and sweaty, calling it a regrettable misunderstanding and tossing the involved employees on administrative leave. Too little, too late, way too late. Meanwhile, Colonel Carter pressed on quiet, resolute. He escorted Private First Class Jason Reynolds home. Standing tall as that young soldier's family received him one last time. Heartbreaking. He didn't crave headlines, didn't chase attention. Why would he? He needed respect, pure and simple. And that was the real fight. Respect shouldn't be a gamble, should it? Shouldn't need a viral video or public fury. It should be the baseline always. Those people at the airport, the Marine, the passengers who shouted, who refused to stay quiet, they proved something huge. When folks stand united, injustice can't hide, can it? If you believe in accountability, in honoring those who serve, speak up. Because silence, that's what lets this happen again. And next time it might not go viral, think about that. Oh, what a gut punch this story delivers. It's not just about an airport mix-up, it's a blazing spotlight on how we treat those who sacrifice everything. I'm furious, honestly, that a man like Colonel Carter, carrying the weight of a fallen soldier's honor, could be brushed off with flimsy excuses like policy or miscommunication. Respect shouldn't be a negotiation, it's a damn right, especially for those who serve. This hits me hard because it screams a truth about our lifestyle today. We're so caught up in our screens, our petty inconveniences, that we forget the real heroes walking among us. How dare we let bureaucracy trample over dignity? Socially, it's a wake-up call. Where's our backbone? I'm in awe of that Marine, that young woman with her phone, those passengers who refused to stay silent. That's the America I believe in, people standing up, shouting loud when something's wrong. It's not about politics or hashtags, it's about heart, about not letting injustice slide because it's just business. I'm sick of seeing corporations dodge accountability with weak apologies, really. Regrettable misunderstanding? No, it's a disgrace, and we should demand better. Our soldiers, our veterans, they're not props for feel-good stories. They're the backbone of this nation, and we owe them everything. This isn't just an issue, it's a fire in my chest. We've got to live with more guts, more compassion, not just coasting through life, ignoring the fights worth fighting. Silence isn't peace, it's cowardice. If we don't honor those who give their all, what the hell are we even doing? Let's live louder, fiercer, and never let respect be optional ever.